Today on People Now.
I think sometimes you have to stand up to the bully.
Stars are sharing.
Because I have had some internet bullying.
When I feel like I'm doing something good and then people just like tear me apart.
It hurts first. I mean, absolutely, that's the first reaction. Their own personal stories about being bullied.
I'm just starting to enter that with my kids, and it's terrifying.
And we're starting a conversation with you right now.
Bullying. It can happen to any child. The CDC reports that 17% of students in 9th to 12th grade have seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. At least 1 in 4 U.S. students reports being bullied, and that number can be 2 to 3 times higher for kids with disabilities. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death among children 10 to 14. And it's the 2nd leading cause of death for people ages 15 to 34. According to recent statistics, only 17% of girls and 22% of boys report instances of online bullying when they witness it or are subject to it. Now, more than ever, bullying is an issue that every parent needs to talk about with their child. Well, guys, things can obviously seem dark. It's a serious issue, but today is all about giving you the tools to deal with bullying and to ultimately help bring bullying to an end and bring about hope. That's why we are so glad to have Melissa Joan Hart and founder and CEO of Stomp Out Bullying, Ross Ellis, here. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
Thank you for joining us. So let's start with you, Melissa. You're the mother of 3 young boys, so I'm sure that this is a topic that you think about a lot. How different is bullying today than it was when you were younger?
Well, you know, my boys are just getting to that age. So I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And so the 10-year-old has been dealing with it a little bit in his school. You know, there's definitely that one kid that's always causing trouble and whatnot. And I've actually just been leaning on Ross to be like, exactly what is the proper thing to teach him, tell him, how to handle this and that kind of thing. And luckily there is Stomp Out Bullying and places to go to get more information about what you can do. But I'm just starting to enter that with my kids, and it's terrifying, just knowing the right way to handle things. It's hard because my son is at an age where he wants to go play at people's houses, but it's like, I want to give him a cell phone so I can find him and let him kind of roam. But at the same time, I don't want him to have a cell phone for all those other reasons.
Sure.
It's got to be very tricky to navigate. I know you go through that as well.
No, I know, right?
It's very tricky.
It's stressful.
Luckily, there are resources. Ross, Stomp Out Bullying. It's the leading national anti-bullying and cyberbullying organization for kids.
Yes.
So take me back. Why did you want to start this organization?
I started by mistake. I had started an organization, Love Our Children USA, to prevent child abuse. And I heard all these rumblings about bullying and things on the internet. Cyberbullying didn't have a name yet. And I said, we really need to jump on this. So we were really the pioneers in this area. Put it on the website. 2 days, the website crashed because everyone was coming to it.
Wow.
So then we started Stomp Out Bullying.
You realize you're onto something at that
Yes.
point, and obviously it's gone on now to be something that's just this really incredible tool. Melissa, Twitter attacks are something that you've had to deal with. You've opened up about this and talked about the fact that you've tweeted in the past, and some of the responses that you're very sad that one day your kids are going to have to see those and see the hate that people can spew.
There was some serious hate, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you tell your kids about bullying when it comes to that? And like, hey, mommy has fallen under those kinds of attacks.
The hardest thing about social media, and it's really hard, I think, to explain this to young kids and and even young adults to a certain extent, people that take things to heart and are and are easily wounded, that you have to ignore it.
It makes a lot of sense. That's a good piece of advice. Ross, we want to get some of your advice as well, but first we want to check this out and what some celebrities have come up with in terms of how they combat bullying. Watch this.
I think the best way to fight bullying would just be, I think sometimes you have to stand up to the bully. I don't mean to get physical with that person, but if you see someone being bullied, like, don't be afraid to speak up for them or to tell, a parent or a close friend or someone that you trust that they are being bullied. And I think just killing them with kindness.
So when it comes to bullying, I have a different approach. It might not be the most popular, but my thing is stand up to bullying by standing up for yourself. Bullying is never going to disappear, as tragic as that is. So my philosophy with my kids is don't be the victim. Stand up for yourself, defend yourself, do what you gotta do, because that's the only way I see to combat bullying.
Remember that it's really not about you, it's about them. That doesn't make it hurt any less, but at least know that you're not alone and go talk to an adult. Talk to anybody, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, talk to your other friends, because bullying is not okay, and it's really okay to say something about it and stop it.
The way I stand up to bullies is with kindness and love, because I think that's really what they need. They're misunderstood and probably really upset themselves, and it's been hard because I have had some internet bullying, and I just either don't respond or respond with kindness.
If you're being cyberbullied, know that you're not alone, and that if something's happening, you should talk to someone like a peer or an adult.
It's not your fault that you're dealing with it. You didn't do anything to deserve it, and no one deserves to be treated any less than anyone else. I know it's really easy to feel isolated and like no one is listening or that no one cares or maybe you're the crazy one. The most important thing to keep in mind is that it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to speak to someone you trust, and you should.
Ross, I mean, what are some of the warning signs that parents should be out to look for when it comes to if they are nervous about their kids being bullied?
I mean, kids, they lose sleep. They don't want to go to school. They don't eat. They don't want to be with their friends. They're not on their computers. So those are really the signs to look for, because they're not doing their normal stuff that they do every day.
Well, Melissa, Joan Hart, and Ross Ellis, thank you so much for everything.
Good to see you.
And of course, for more information on Stomp Out Bullying, head to stompoutbullying.org.
And guys, up next, Sadie Robertson and Nico Tortorella join us right here in studio. And a little bit later, Breaking Bad star RJ Mitte is here as well.
But first, some of the stars we talked to are sharing their own personal bullying experiences to help people realize it can happen to anyone. Watch.
One time in my life I felt like I didn't fit in was every time I had to move schools. I went back and forth a lot between New York and India, and it was hard to fit in. And sometimes I got teased. Teased for what I brought to school for lunch, teased for my name, teased for how I looked. And it was really hard when you're growing up and you just want to fit in and be like someone else. I was certainly bullied as a child. I can even remember their names. When I was in 7th grade, it was Sylvia. When I was in 8th grade, it was Patty. One time, somebody put crushed an egg on my head and punched me in the face, and it was horrible. I used to be called Giraffe, and it just makes you feel so alone and so scared and just horrible.
I deal with bullying on a daily basis from social media. Literally, people always say stuff to me on Instagram, and you just have to remember that people who are going to comment, they're obviously coming from an insecure place. When you're happy with your life and everything's cool, you're not going to go try to put someone else down. So just remember, it's not about you, it's about them, and all you have to do is block them and delete the comment.
All throughout middle school, it was a really tough time for me. My middle school is kind of like a high school, cliques here and there, and people talking about each other here and there, and it can get to a point where it's hurtful, it's stressful, it's painful, and sometimes when you get online and you pretend to be somebody that you're not, and you say those mean and hurtful things, I think you have to think about the other person and what they might be going through and what happens behind closed doors, because I don't think people think about that before they actually write something that's going to be hurtful to that person and kind of ruin who they are as an individual as they're trying to learn who they are as themselves and growing up and just literally taking in this entire world.
I encountered a lot of people giving me hate online and on Twitter, Instagram, everything like that. And it was hurtful for me at first. I wasn't used to it, as most people wouldn't be, and I took it really personally, and it hit me hard.
One time I felt like I didn't fit in would have to be in middle school. This girl that I thought I was friends with and that a bunch of my friends were friends with was having her bat mitzvah, and she invited everyone to her bat mitzvah except for me. And when I asked her, or actually no, I didn't ask her why. Another friend of mine asked her why, and she said it was because I was on a TV show, and so I was going to try and steal the spotlight. So that was kind of a bummer. I was pretty upset about that.
The truth is, I felt bullied throughout my whole childhood. Kids are mean, and I guess what I want to say is it gets better, and believe in yourself and find the strength inside you to grow and to become the best person you can be, and don't let them get you down.
Without her trying, Stella every day. You're amazing, just the way you are.
Don't miss all the latest amazing stories right at your fingertips. People love people.
I have thick skin, so nothing ever really hits me. I don't really care what people have to think. And I think you should look at it the same way. People try to have control over your life and over your feelings, but you don't have to allow them in, and you don't have to listen to what they have to say. I simply won't listen. And on my social media, when people put things out there that are, negative, all I do is delete and block, and that's what you should too. Do not let anybody into your world that you don't care about and doesn't care about you. So do the best you can by blocking them out and having the most thick skin. By the way, it doesn't matter what they think. You didn't ask their opinion.
Guys, that of course is Alfonso Ribeiro talking about how he handles bullying, specifically online social media bullies.
And we have 3 people here now who can speak on that subject and so much more. Joining us now is Duck Dynasty star Sadie Robertson, younger star Nico Tortorella, and board-certified clinical psychologist Dr. Jeff Gardere. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Hello.
The whole panel here.
Yes.
Dr. Jeff, let's start with you. We heard Alfonso there talking about online bullying. It's perhaps one of the most, I guess, fierce forms of bullying right now because there's sort of this anonymity related to it. People can be really mean without any consequence to some degree. Do you agree with his advice, sort of block and delete?
I think Alfonso is right on it because this is something that can stay around forever. So many people can pile on. So you have to give the message quite clearly. You can't touch this. You can't touch me with this. And that message becomes so clear that other people pull back right away. Because it's almost like a wounded animal. Some people tend to have the tendency when they see that, now they're like, okay, now exactly. Okay. So we need people to be upstanders. You've heard that term before, not bystanders and let things happen, but step in and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this. Zero tolerance policy.
Makes a lot
of sense. And Sadie, you're no stranger to social media bullying. You're very open and honest about it. What's something that you experienced hate-wise on social media that really stuck with you?
I think I've noticed that no matter what you do, you're gonna get hate on it. That's just how the internet is, sadly. Like, there's always gonna be a negative comment, and so you kind of have to be prepared for that. But I think the hardest thing that I've dealt with for me is like when I feel like I'm doing something good and then people just like tear me apart. Like whenever we went over to Africa, when we got back, we got so much hate for helping another country and not helping our own. And it's so like crazy because then in your mind, like I guess if I didn't know who I was, I would be like, well, should I even be doing this? Like, what am I doing good? Because you start thinking like, are they right? Are they not right? And so that's like been hard for me. And I see other celebrities who it does drive them crazy. And for me, like, gosh, it would be really hard if I didn't have my family because just to have them have my back.
You gotta have sort of this sense of identity that rests in,
right.
in something else besides all of that. What would your big piece of advice be for someone who isn't a celebrity but is dealing with social bullying?
Well, before I was a celebrity, I definitely dealt with bullying in school too. And my brother would always stand up for me, which I just like love that so much. And so I think like be the brother, be the person for your friend that does stand up. And like he said, like, don't be the person that just stands by and watch because every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You just got to start a new action. You just got to get in there and like get it done.
Change that flow, which is important from negative to positive.
Yeah. And go comment nice things on other people's pages.
Yeah.
Spread the love. That's like the easiest way to battle the hate.
Yeah.
Put more love out in the world.
People are quicker to do a negative comment than a positive comment, sadly.
I know, very sadly. Nico, now you're very open and honest online and in general about your sexuality, being sexually fluid specifically. Were you nervous when you first decided to put that out there about the reaction you were going to get from people in your life and also online?
Yeah, I mean, of course I was nervous. As an actor, there are very specific guidelines set up of how you're supposed to handle yourself, in this industry. And I've kind of never stood by them. I've always just beat to my own drum, I guess, and lived the life that I've always wanted to live and have been unapologetically myself, and I think that's the only way to handle it.
What's your reaction, your first reaction when you see some sort of hateful comment?
It hurts first.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, that's the first reaction. And my second reaction is to block and delete, just like Alfonso
Yeah.
said, you know? And more importantly, like I said, just to go say something nice to somebody else, you know?
You know, there's such a tendency, you know, for all of us to just want to be part of the crowd, to be, you know, under the wire, that anonymity, which can sometimes be dangerous because people act out because of that. But what you did, I think, is so courageous, and that's what we really need to work on, being courageous, going to Africa to help people, talking about your sexuality, because it really is about giving back to everyone on this planet. And I think we can begin to change that energy from where we have all of these trolls on the internet to people who really care. It really can be a great force for good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Sadie, you've been a huge advocate of being yourself, living positively. You actually started a tour called the Live Original Tour, which is really incredible. What inspired you to originally start this tour?
Well, I wanted people to just be confident in who they are as a person. And as, you know, like he said sometimes, you know, you don't want to say what you really are because there are guidelines to acting in a job. For me, like for being a Christian, people immediately judge that and they don't want to do that. And so I think no matter who you are, you got to go one way or the other. You know, you got to stand up for yourself. And so for the tour, I wanted people to just be who they were originally created to be and just express their purpose in life, because their purpose is going to do so much more than trying to copy somebody else's.
Yeah. So now the tour's over. What was one of the most memorable moments from that tour? I know you engaged with people a lot, right? Like you had a lot of interaction with fans and people dealing with things. What sticks out?
Well, that was the whole purpose, because I wanted to take it off of social media and really get to know my fans, not just as followers. And so it was really cool. But I think I guess I would say two. So one, it was like we sold out in Birmingham, which was really cool to be our first show sold out. And just to see the people at the very top we were worshiping, just their hands up and tears, just like crazy to see the movement, even at the balcony. It was really awesome. But then another one that will stick with me, when we were in New York. So every other place we went to, it's in the South. So, you know, we had a lot of people there. But in New York, it was the smallest amount by far. But we knew we needed to come. And this girl came up to me and she said, "You just really changed my life," because a lot of times I think we forget to have positivity in New York because it gets kind of dark sometimes. And she was like, I needed that boost. And she said, "Don't give up on New York. Y'all need to come back next year."
Wow, that's great. That's really nice.
I was like, whoa, and so to be in New York just makes me think of that. It was really awesome.
That's cool.
I love that. So Nico, you have this podcast called The Love Bomb with Nico Tortorella.
Love the name, first of all.
Yeah, dropping love bombs.
Dropping love bombs around the city.
I'm a super fan. I listen to every episode. Just saying. I have. But it's all about love and everything in these different forms. I mean, have you received any stories from people that have maybe, you know, struggled themselves and then could be more open because of how open you are on your podcast?
Yeah, you know, the feedback that I've been getting has just been absolutely astounding. I get hundreds of messages every day from people all over the world. And, you know, I mean, I am having these conversations all the time in my waking life, you know, that aren't part of the podcast. And once I got into a studio with some microphones and was able to bring these conversations to the masses, you know, it's just sharing my experience and people that I love, their experiences with the world, and it's just changing lives. And if that's not the greatest thing in the world, then I don't know what is.
Sadie, Nico, and Dr. Jeff, thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're dropping love bombs all over.
It's a love revolution.
Love revolution.
Yeah, and that's how you fight bullying.
That's how it is. How you fight bullying.
Love bomb.
Stay with us, guys. We have Breaking Bad star RJ Mitte here. He's opening up about the added bullying people with disabilities can go through and what we can all do to help stop that. But first, check this out.
Came to a point where I was tired of coming home and crying.
Singer-songwriter Brooke Hummel is using her voice for good. Launching her own anti-bullying campaign, the 16-year-old has just released a very personal new song called Cruel in the hopes that her song will help others. Because for Brooke, the bullying online has been real.
Mainly cyberbullying, you know, a lot of people would be sending different things to me that, you know, whether they be little or they be small, people know how to get under your skin about things.
So Brooke started a nonprofit.
And for those being bullied, stop, block, and tell.
And that's kind of what we were creating when we were turning this all around. So, you know, essentially stop, block, and tell. So you want to stop reading it, you want to stop, you know, just crying over it and then blocking the person if it's online. Every Twitter, Facebook, everything all has a block button, and then telling somebody, because if you don't tell somebody, you know, nothing's going to change.
Great advice indeed.
And now we're very excited to be joined by Breaking Bad star and Cut the Bull spokesperson, RJ Mitte. Thank you so much for being here, RJ.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
It's
We're
a
so excited to have you. So much to talk about. Let's start with this, RJ. A lot of people watching this might not realize that kids with disabilities are 2 to 3 more times likely to be bullied. I know that's part of the reason that you joined Shriners Hospitals for Children's Cut the Bull campaign. You got the shirt there, the whole deal. You had cerebral palsy. What was your experiencing like with bullying growing up?
You know, I had a number of different experiences with bullying, both physically and verbally. You know, it is very true because when you have a physical disability, people see it. And they perceive that as a weakness. They perceive it as something like now that we have to cure, we have to cleanse, we have to overcome. And yes, we do have to overcome it. But the thing is it was an asset to me. It gave me so much. And I dealt with a number of it, but I never backed down. I never was afraid to speak my mind and to stand up for what I believed in. And I was lucky. My grandparents and Shriners Hospital were a big part of that. I started going to them when I was 3, and I went to them until I aged out. And they definitely see the ability in people that the truth behind them, not just what people see on the surface.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, as you grew up and people began to know you and love you from Breaking Bad, I mean, did the bullying subside or did you have to deal with that online?
It just changes. You know, the thing about it is everyone has been bullied and everyone has bullied someone. At one point of your life, it has happened. And, you know, I think it varies depending on situations that you're in. And I dealt with a few cyber bullies and trolls. I prefer trolls because it's a great analogy when you
it's kind
think
of perfect,
of it.
right?
It's kind of perfect. But I'm very lucky. My fans are amazing. I have some of the best fans you could ever ask for. And what's sad is I kind of feel bad sometimes for people that attack me because they get attacked.
Oh, right. Oh, your fans just like pile on.
They stop it. It gets nixed in the butt. They don't. It's
that's
like,
great.
oh, it's over.
It's one thing, of course, as we just sort of outlined, to be a celebrity and to have the bullying that comes, or the shaming, or whatever comes along with that because of your star power or whatever it may be. But for most kids, that's not the case, and it's much more personal. And for most families, it affects the parents, everyone else. Having gone through some of that stuff before you were famous, what advice would you give to parents to tell their kids, to help their kids through it when they see maybe if they have a kid with disabilities going through that kind of thing and receiving that kind of negative attention?
Be open with your kids. Have a conversation with your kids. Share a story that affected you when you were a child and how you overcome that aspect. But really, I think having the open conversation and knowing and letting your kids know that this isn't just you. This happens to everyone.
What would your message be to the kid out there that's perhaps struggling through some disability, being bullied, that needs the encouragement, that needs to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel? What's your message?
At the end of the day, you're not alone.
Well, RJ Mitte, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for everything that you're doing. And you guys, don't forget, for more information on Shriners Hospitals for Children and their Cut the Bull campaign, head to cutthebull.org.
And guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that the stories that you've heard, the talks that we've had have been encouraging for you. And remember, if you are being bullied, you can always go to stompoutbullying.org, stopblocktell.org, and of course, as we said, cutthebull.org.
And most importantly, remember that you are not alone. And we'll leave you with these words of encouragement. Thank you so much for joining us.
An inspirational message I have about dealing with bullying is just to always be yourself and remember that you are beautiful and completely deserving of love, no matter where you're from, what you look like, or what's going on in your life.
Everybody needs love. Love will always, always, always overcome hate. So find the place in your soul that has empathy for the people that are doing this to you, but also say something. You deserve better.
Be good, be kind, spread positivity and love, and surround yourself with people that are going to support you and love you.
It's important to at least just try to express what you're feeling. That'll make you feel a little bit better. And always feel free to message me about that because I know how it feels. Most people have dealt with it in some sort of a way and I think would be really okay with helping you out.
You should only care about what you think about yourself and not what other people think because you're amazing and no one should bring you down.
Know that you can do anything, you can accomplish anything you put your mind to, and that it's really their problem, that they're the ones hating on you, and it's not yours. So you guys are awesome, keep shining, and stay beautiful.